I am Jeff Ado. This is Lunacy, where we discern the sacred from the insane and admit that whether we like it or not, we are all profoundly affected by the cycles of the moon. How? No, man, you're supposed to howl.
Oh.
Like a wolf.
Moo!
No, that's a cow, man.
Oh.
That's a cow. A wolf howls. Nope, that's a, I think that's what is that, a woodpecker?
Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
Okay. Like that?
Yep. No, that's different too. That's some sort of a weird kazoo, man.
All right.
I think maybe like a goose fart.
Ooh, a goose. That was a goose fart.
That was a little bit of a goose fart
definitely
sound
a goose fart.
for people.
I'm afraid I don't know how to howl.
That counts.
Okay.
Great. Excellent. Good
All right.
job.
Good.
All right. If you haven't guessed, obviously we're going to be extraordinarily serious today. My guest here is Tony Lauria, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here to talk about the mine. For those of you who have been following the podcast, on January 15th of 2023 last year, I did my first episode on the mine with this gentleman right here. We were talking about the mine that was the Idaho Maryland Mine, which was a mine they were trying to reopen here in Grass Valley. And Tony, my good friend, and I did a podcast. And actually, the podcast was very serious at that time.
It was a very serious thing.
And I didn't realize that we didn't know that we're both complete, total goofballs at that time.
Nah, we kind of went off the deep end of it.
Then later on, we realized that we're just complete nutcases, and well, now here we are, you guys. So that's that.
But it was a serious issue. It's serious.
It was a serious issue. So today, this is going to be a fun celebration of the fact that we beat those fuckers. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. It was fantastic.
We won. We won.
Amazing.
And, so, look, I realize a lot of you are listening to this going, what the hell are they talking about? We both live in Grass Valley, California, right? I live in Rough and Ready, actually, just to have a better name than you. But
is that a town where there are a lot of brothels, Rough and Ready?
oh, well, it used to be. I think there were some back in the day, but not anymore to my knowledge. Anyway, we live up here, and there were plans to reopen this mine called the Idaho Maryland Mine, and there would have been all kinds of terrible effects, including huge amounts of traffic and trucks, which is what I came here to escape from Los Angeles, and draining of aquifers and releasing asbestos into the air, and increased wildfire, risk, and also polluting of the Wolf Creek, etc. Right? What else am I missing here?
Well, you're missing 83 different impacts as laid out in their environmental impact report. And many of those, they said, well, we can't mitigate these to less than significant, but that's just the way it is.
Yes.
We're going to do it anyway, and we're going to ruin your air with the asbestos, because a lot of that in the ground underneath that mine is serpentine rock, and that holds all the asbestos in there. When you chew that stuff up and spit it out into the air, they were going to exhaust all of that through this monstrous vent and shoot it into the air. Silica dust, all that stuff. You can't. It's like so micron small, you can't stop that stuff. So, I mean, the wells, that was a whole big thing.
Yes.
There's over 500 wells in the area.
Including your well.
Yes,
which is why you
mine.
were originally on the program.
Right.
You would have actually lost your well.
Yeah, and many people would. And probably, well, I guess, about 500 of those, they were saying, okay, well, just to appease people, we're going to replace people's wells that are right next to the mine site. But, that was a deficient plan at best, because they really didn't even want to do that. They were sort of forced into it.
Yes.
But impacts were just astounding. Everything, like you mentioned. I mean, there's 83 of them.
And at the time, it was looking really good. Well, it seemed like maybe this was going to happen. And so Tony and I and a bunch of people from our community showed up to protest. in mass and organized, and the CEA got together, and Christy Hubbard and Tracy Sheehan, CEA, the Sierra Club, a whole slew of people came on board to battle this thing. There had been 4 meetings about it, and we won. Yeah, they said no.
The Community Environmental Advocates, which is CEA, led by Ralph Silberstein.
Yes.
Just relentless, great guy who enlisted the Schutt, Mahaley, and Weinberg of, I think I'm saying that right, of San Francisco. They're the premier land use attorneys. And without their help, we would have been stuck facing some of this legal stuff that came up.
Yeah.
But they, and it cost bucks, just to call them up. It's like, cha-ching, okay, that'll be $500. Say hello to you today.
Yeah, exactly.
And okay,
what else do you want?
Yeah. Did you want to talk about the mine? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And fortunately, people donated and kept up with the demands for their pay. But that was great.
Yeah.
This whole thing was, I think, 5 years in the making.
Wow.
The Rise Gold from Canada bought it about 5 or 6 years ago, and then started creating the EIR, Environmental Impact Report, which was a draft at first. And then that was when we all got involved, and they did the mine company did a test drill, which was horrible for the people living on Bennett Street. They all heard it night and day, and it was a precursor to destruction if that thing was going to happen. So little did they know, that's the favorite saying in one of those movies, little did he know that our community was nobody to be fucked with. Man.
Yes.
We were going to get out and make this stop.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm covering it on the podcast. It's not just because it's near and dear to my heart, because I live here. And by the way, like, my well probably wouldn't have been affected because I'm so many, 10, 15 miles away from the actual site. But I don't care about that because this is my neighborhood. These are my neighbors. This is my friend. And I want to stand up for the people in my neighborhood and our environment. And so the reason that we're talking about it now is because I think it's really important. I think what happened here is really important on a global level. Because so often, we find out about things and then we're like, well, that's going on. Guess that's just how it is.
Nothing I can do about that. It's out of my control.
And we don't, yeah, exactly. We don't rise up and say, no, stop. You can't do that. And this is an example of our community that did that. We did rise up. We did say, stop, you can't do this. We did show up en masse with very intelligent arguments. Not mine, but other people's were very intelligent.
Well, an intelligent song. That's a great
true. I did
interlude.
Right. Yes.
There were two performers, you and Charlie Price, which it was great. It was a good interlude that took the, some of the pressure off.
Some of the tension out of it. And rallied people together.
Yeah.
So, and we won. And it's important. To me, it's really important because to me, it represents the way forward in terms of what we as humanity, as this global community, need to do in the face of all of these terrible things that are happening to the ocean, in terms of farming, in terms of the environment, in terms of the rainforest, etc. Like, it's time for us to rise up and say, stop it. And here we did it, and we won.
Yeah, and you were saying, well, you live kind of far away from the site that was going to open, but that doesn't matter because that effect of those 83 impacts would trickle to everywhere in this county.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would affect tourism, businesses would leave. It would be a place where residents would be packing up and going and tourism was a big thing. No, who do you know that would go, hey, let's go up and visit that toxic industrial wasteland up at Grass Valley.
Maybe we'll get cancer.
Yeah, maybe we can go there and take some deep breaths and see what we see. And so obviously there's different places around the state, like Tonopah. We've driven through there. Have you gone through there?
No.
That's an old mine town, and it's got some weird energy. And it just comes with mining. one thing that wasn't mentioned, which I was interested to see if anybody would bring it up, was the crime rate increasing. If you brought a mine back, as this happened in Nevada, they reopened a mine, and the crime rate soared because you got a lot of influx of workers coming in from out of town, and then they get off their shift and they don't really live here. They don't care for the environment. They don't care for the people, their town. They're just there to make money, and then they get off work and go, well, let's go fuck some shit up, man. Let's go rob some people, or let's go mess with some women that are on the corners or whatever. So that was interesting that nobody brought that up, but we fortunately didn't have to because we won on what we did say. But there was a fellow, the last guy that spoke was Martin Webb. He's a pretty articulate guy with a very unique voice, and he talked about cumulative effects.
I'm Martin Webb of Penn Valley, happy to attend another hearing resulting in a unanimous no vote against this poorly thought out proposal. I'm not sure what county the applicant thinks they're in, but they're definitely in the wrong one. Let's stop pretending this proposal wouldn't damage our community and quality of life in 83 different ways according to the EIR. Any studious reader knows that 83 damaging impacts were predicted for our community that lives and breathes off of our beautiful natural settings. Let's remember the EIR creates arbitrary lines that call some of those 83 negative impacts significant and some less than significant, often with no real mathematical difference between the two. For example, pollution levels might be deemed significant at 10,000 parts per million, but magically less than significant when they are merely one particulate less at 9,999. However, there's no real difference between the two numbers other than one gets to be called less than significant and thus is ignored by the EIR to create unmitigated damages. What this means is the EIR states we'd be intentionally left with a grand total of 83 separate but compounded damaging impacts. None of them would disappear, and all of which creates one enormous significant negative impact that would be unmitigated. Drinking one light beer is less than significant. Drinking 83 beers creates significant damages. Having one small hole in a boat is less than significant. Having 83 holes creates significant damages. So let no one be misled. Only someone who doesn't live here and is being paid to bully our town would dare to pretend that 83 negative impacts are somehow insignificant or don't exist at all.
And it was a good analogy because, yeah, okay, maybe we can take this one loss of peace and tranquility, add that to the water loss, add that to the air loss, add that to the trucking on your private roads all that time, on and on and on through all these things. And the cumulative effects were devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they used faulty numbers, which were disproved during the hearing by different people who were protesting, by different people who were getting up to speak. Yeah. There were all kinds of shenanigans going on behind the scenes, and I think what's so hopeful about it for me is this is democracy in action. All of the people here stood up to speak, and we were heard, and the Nevada County Supervisors, God bless them, did what was best for the community. They did what we wanted, and they did what was best in our best interest, in their best interest, in the best interest of this county, and honestly in the best interest of the world. Because like you're saying, there's all untold impacts that would affect me personally from who lives here, but also California. Now you're playing with fault lines, and you're drilling super deep, 3.5 miles deep, right?
Oh, yeah. The deep bedrock mining is one of the most dangerous and toxic, really. When you start churning up rock that's deep in there, you're going to expose all the heavy metals. And in California, there are 47, can you believe this number? 47,000 contaminated abandoned mines. These are gold mines in California. So this whole greed thing is yeah, let's get us some gold. And unbelievable number that there are all of these abandoned mines that are still toxic and still in California. So this was one of the big things I talked about, in my 3 minutes. You get 3 minutes. That's the bizarre thing. You're like, okay, I got 3 minutes to fit in all this stuff to save my house. Because, of course, any of us, if this mine went in, our house values would tank completely.
Completely, because you can't buy a house that has no water.
And yeah.
And is also like next to a toxic waste site.
If you lost your water to your house, then you've got zero value. If you didn't lose your water, but you're near the mine site, you're going to lose most of the value in your property.
And by the way, let's just put a point on it. The Rise Gold plan was to provide water from NID, which is the Nevada Irrigation District water, which provides ditch water to those of us in the area, which allows us to use that for farming. But it's muddy water. It's not sanitized water. They would have to upgrade their whole system in order to supply that water.
Yeah, they need,
right?
NID would have to trench. It would take quite a while to bring a new line in on Bennett Street and serve these 30 houses with fresh potable water. But they're a sly company. So they said, yeah, we'll bring water into these people, but they weren't going to bring it in at the same volume and the same rate as what these people already have through their wells. They said, oh, well, we're bringing it in with a 1/2-inch pipe. Mm-hmm. And you live up the road, there's Bennett Street. You live maybe, a third of a mile up this area on Bennett Street. We're only bringing it to the road. You're going to have to figure out how to get it from the road to your house. So they're a very snide group that worked all of the details in their favor, so they didn't really have to put out much. And that was one of my comments. If they had to seriously put up for the true assurances and protections, the project would be done.
Yeah, they could. There's no way they could have possibly afforded it.
They couldn't. If the numbers wouldn't add up, they say there's no way we can make a profit after we have to put up. One guy said they'll need to put up 131 million in assurances that if there's a disaster, somebody's going to clean it up, and there's money to pay for it. The NID wanted 14 million to say, look, if you have a well down the other road go bad, we don't have service there. It's going to take 3 to 5 years for us to trench, put a line in, and millions of dollars to bring water to these other homes that don't have service from us right now, and only have a well. Mm-hmm. So that was a messy, messy part of this stuff. And the gold company was saying, oh, look, everything's been fine. We're fine. Ain't nothing going to happen. And I was saying, okay, you want this overreaching permit for 80 years?
80 years they wanted to do it.
And even though there's 47,000 abandoned, contaminated mines.
Which, by the way, of those, how many have fully been cleaned up of the 47,000 mines?
Probably not many.
0.
Yeah.
Actually,
probably.
0. No, that's the truth story, is that none of them have been fully cleaned up.
Yeah.
Some of them have been somewhat cleaned up, and there's ongoing cleanup going on, but none of them have been completely cleaned up. So all 47,000 are still toxic sites.
Including the mine site that they want to reopen.
Yes.
And they've shoved that way under the carpet. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, what are you going to do about the site right where you're going to reopen this mine? It's already contaminated as well. And so not much talk about that.
Yeah.
So, there was just endless stuff. There was a retired bankruptcy judge named Randall Newsom that got up and did his 3 minutes. Fantastic.
Okay, so we're going to take a second just to listen to that clip really quick. Here you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Randall Newsom, and I'm a retired U.S. bankruptcy judge living in District 1. I have just a few points to make. First, Rise is broke. Its current liabilities exceed its current assets by almost $200,000. Whatever may have been the company's original intentions, Risegrass Valley clearly does not have and cannot raise the hundreds of millions of dollars required to reopen this mine. The whole thing has been a pipe dream from the very beginning. Second, Rise has never established the proved reserves of the mine as noted in their own economic report. Thus, even if Rise could prevail on its frivolous due process claim, without proved reserves, their damages are zero. Third, if you grant the permit, Rise will promptly try to sell the mine, probably through a bankruptcy filing, and a sale free and clear of interests, either here or in Canada, so that they can attempt to strip out all the promises they've made to this community and hand clear title to the buyer. With a new owner comes a new set of characters and a new chapter in this drama. The only purpose to be served in approving the permit now is to bail out Rise's shareholders from their bad investment. Fourth, when Rise bought the mine, they knew or should have known that the property wasn't zoned for mining. It can't now manufacture a due process claim by asserting that the county will violate its due process rights if it doesn't rezone the property. Besides, doing so would violate the general plan. Fifth, the county is in the unenviable position of being sued by one side or the other here. However, there's ample evidence in the record to justify denying approval of the EIR and the permit. Better to deny both and defend the decision in court than to potentially spend the next 80 years in one court or another trying to prevent Rise from turning this community into an industrial hellscape. Reject the EIR, reject the permit. Thank you.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Another gal was Jillian Blanchard, is a land use attorney. Mm-hmm. She's been a land use attorney for 20 years. And I've heard from other land use attorneys, my other neighbors, said the EIR, Environmental Impact Report, was the absolute worst they have ever seen in their history.
Wow.
It cut so many corners, shaved off important aspects, and was deficient in a million ways.
Yeah.
And so she got up and really laid it down. And this is another clip you should reference too.
Yeah, let's take a look at that really quick.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Jillian Blanchard. I'm a land use attorney with a home in Grass Valley. And I urge you to follow staff's recommendation and deny the rezone and variance for a project that has no basis here in modern-day Grass Valley. As staff has made clear, this project is detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of this community and does not comply with the surrounding land uses. Clearly, Rise's new attorney has never visited the site, which is surrounded by homes. Why would you certify a CEQA document for an incompatible project that cannot be approved? California law clearly states that when there is no project, there is no need to certify, and when the document is legally flawed, which it is here, you cannot certify. There is overwhelming evidence on the record from technical and legal experts establishing that the EIR does not comply with CEQA and that the project cannot be approved. To highlight just a few fatal flaws, the EIR fails to fully evaluate and mitigate significant impacts to water supply, biological resources, air quality hazards, and more. It relies on groundwater data that is not only out of date, but has been disproven by hydrologists on the record. That's not just a disagreement of experts. That's evidence on the record proving that the EIR conclusions are false. The project fails to adequately prevent well impacts that will financially ruin your community. It also fails to include financial assurances in the event that this applicant causes environmental damage, as it has already done in other communities surrounding its other mine projects. The EIR fails on so many accounts that it would violate state law to certify this document, which stands as one of the most flawed documents I've seen in over 20 years of land use practice. Even if you deny this project, which we strongly recommend you do, certifying this EIR would leave this community exposed to the real threat of a future developer coming back, relying on this document to ram a project through the approval process. This exact thing happened in Lafayette when a developer came back and pushed a housing project through, relying on a 7-year-old EIR. And we'll be right back here with the same frustrations, only then you supervisors will be bound by the analysis in the EIR, which is a legally deficient document. This project is totally inconsistent with the now residential area surrounding the site. Groundwater pumping 24 hours a day that depletes critical well water supply, noise impacts every day, all day. These are just a few of the significant health and safety issues that cannot be ignored. The only way to solve this problem is to not certify the EIR and unequivocally deny this project. Do not be bullied by meritless threats.
Wow.
Yeah, she was fantastic. There were so many astute, intelligent people getting up.
Yeah.
Doctors, Dr. Jeff Kane got up and said,
I've heard us accused of being NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Well, I'd like to offer a truer acronym, which is NIABY, not in anybody's backyard. Because we don't need more gold. Gold has a few industrial and aesthetic uses, but almost all of it is simply hoarded. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the world's gold depositories store 205,000 tons. Fort Knox alone holds 4,500 tons of gold. So if you're concerned about some gold deficit, you could promote justice instead by focusing on genuinely threatened entities like potable water, arable soil, and breathable air. Justice requires recognizing gold mining as an infamously destructive endeavor. That prospector on Nevada County Seal dipping his pan in the Yuba was long ago replaced by bulldozers and 20-ton hauling trucks. So, again, please say no.
he said things earlier about air quality and really detailed about what this is going to do to people's lungs for miles around.
Right.
You cannot stop that particulate matter from catching in the wind and going to your house over here.
Or wherever. I mean, we're already, even right here in this valley, we are already a big catch for the air pollution that comes from Sacramento. Yeah. We get we routinely get a D or an F for air quality in this county or in this area because of that pollution. So then you're going to add all these particulates to it and just see what happens.
The energy requirements for...
See what happens. Here's a bunch of particulates for you guys to inhale. Have fun. See you later.
We're getting our gold and we don't care how we're getting it.
That's
but
right.
We're going to get it out of the ground, take it all back to Canada.
Bring all that money back to Canada and say goodbye to you guys. See you later. Have fun. Good luck.
We had a big win on the hearing before the last one, and that was the Planning Commission meeting.
Yes.
And we're all like, fingers crossed and
there were
tense about that.
two of those meetings, by the way, that we both attended. And I sang my song at all of these meetings.
Yep, you rocked it, man.
Very gratifying for me.
Yeah.
By the way, at the end, we'll show the video because I want to. It's my show, and I'll do what I like.
You can do whatever you
I'll
want.
cry if I want to, and I'll show my fucking video too. You know what I mean? Forget it. All right, you're watching it, or you're not watching it. It's up to you.
Had the Planning Commission meeting, which was a big one. We're like all looking forward to this because the Planning Commission is going to say what they think the Board of Supervisors should do when it comes time, because that was going to be the next hearing.
Yes.
So the Planning Commission, and we were like, oh, please. And of course, you have to sit there and listen to the lies and the BS by the mine company saying, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's going to be so perfect and we're going to do this and we're going to make a beautiful place and everyone's going to love it.
And those of us in the know are all sweating bullets because people like Tony are not going to have a house to go back to. And also the environment will be completely wrecked. And if they said yes on any of the counts, yes to the project, yes to the draft environmental impact report, we would face serious problems.
Yeah.
Because if they said yes to any of those things, even when they failed, because they would have, they could have sold that interest to somebody else, and then those other people could have started to do it, and they might have done a better job, which then would have caused even worse problems.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, and that hearing culminated with Terry McAteer, one of the planning commissioners, and he was fantastic.
So let's take a look at that clip.
So it says in this proposal that at its greatest extent, that 108,000 ounces of gold would be produced annually. I said, what does 108,000 ounces of gold look like? So that happens to be 6,775 pounds of gold. And then I said to myself, well, what does 6,775 pounds of gold actually look like? Well, it actually totals, because there's 1,887 pounds to make a cubic foot of gold. And so what we have had this whole discussion, and everybody's been all up in arms and whatever else for the last 3 years, is every year the mine will create, at its highest extent, 6 cubic blocks of gold. Okay? That's what this is all about. But interesting enough, if you continue that out, my train of thought, well then what does that value? Well, at $1,800 an ounce for 108,000 ounces of gold, that equates to $195 million annually at its highest peak. Okay, this highest peak, it could be zero, but it's what this is Mr. Mossman's numbers. And for 75 years at $195 million a year, that equals $14.6 billion of gross revenue, potentially. And so I said to myself, well, gee, $14.6 billion, and this county, who may be sacrificing increased noise, asbestos, potential dewatering of wells, potential water contamination of our waterways, increased traffic, cement trucks coming up and down the road, and our return for our $16.6 billion of gross revenue from Rise Gold is 3 firemen and a fire truck. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. And so that started okay, we've done our deliberation. Now we're going to say where we're at, and boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many, 5 of them went, we don't want this thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to recommend to the board, no, don't certify the EIR, don't certify the project, don't change the rezoning, because that was another thing. Oh, well, it's not zoned for heavy industrial mineral extraction. Mm-hmm. We want to change it from this light industrial and residential area into full-on industrial, heavy, toxic, whatever. So they recommended none of that. And then we're going, oh, this is great. So in the meantime, Rise Gold went, we're screwed, man. We are screwed. We got to do something drastic. So they went and filed a petition for vested rights.
Right, vested rights, which basically said that this mine had been in operation over the years.
Since 1956, when it shut down.
It's been still in operation secretly, under wraps.
Yeah, like invisibly.
I feel like it's like what comes to mind is some like one of those old video games. Oh, you probably don't even know them video games, but like one of them, you know, like those old video games where the zombies
too young to know any of those things.
The zombies are hiding under the rocks. Hold on,
he's gonna find it. The vested rights, they had to prove, since it was closed in 1956, that when they flooded all the tunnels, all their mining tunnels, and they sold all the equipment, and it was abandoned. That was it, done. Mm-hmm. They had to achieve a vested rights approval. They would have had to prove, since that time in 1956 till now, it was constantly in operation in the same manner that it had been back then.
Right.
Which was such a lie.
It was. I mean, I can't even believe they went for it, but they did.
One of my attorney friends says this is a classic thing called abuse of process. Because you can do it, because the law says, well, you're allowed to file for this thing. Mm-hmm. But, legally, someone could have stepped in and said, this is an abusive process. So there's no way. We have testimonies that say, I've lived there for 35 years. I have not seen one bit of mining done there. And I was one of those people. I never saw any mining there. It was completely abandoned. Mm-hmm. So that process had to happen. So we went through that process. So it was now going to postpone the final hearing. We had to go through this whole vested rights. If they won the vested rights, that would mean that they don't have to do anything. They can just go in there and start mining. However, I think they would still have to pass some state requirements, and which this all then eventually leads back to what Randall Newsom was saying, that they don't have the money or the intelligence or the manpower to actually open a mine like this. They're just trying to get the permit, and they want to sell this whole thing and make money and get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Resident Evil, that's what I was looking for.
Oh, Resident
That's
Evil.
like they're since 1956 they've been underground doing stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
Making zombies
Yeah.
and stuff in secret, and then all of a sudden they came out and said, well, that's what happened, but that's not what happened because there are no zombies up here in Grass Valley.
So
Although some people think there's Yeti, but I ain't seen none.
it could be Yeti. I think I have a cooler.
There might be.
That's made by
There's a Yeti that makes coolers.
Yetis make coolers now. They said, shit, we have been in the woods for so long. We need a little income. You know, where they're not
Let's
getting
make
much.
some coolers.
Let's make some coolers.
And some cool cups.
And there's new Yeti battery-powered portable backup devices now.
Amazing. That are made by Yeti.
Yeah, they're making
Awesome.
Yeah, so these
Who knew?
the Sasquatches. They said, well, should we call it Yeti or Sasquatch? You know, it's
Yeah.
easier. The Yeti was
Yeti's
easier.
a little, it's less letters, easier branding.
Right.
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch would be
How do you pronounce it? Is it Sasquatch? Is it Sasquatch? Is it Sasquatch?
too many letters.
Too many letters, too easy to mispronounce. Sasquatch. We're going to call it Yeti, you guys. That's what the Yeti said in their Yeti convention.
And they have sold quite a few of those.
And they've sold a buttload of them, you
They're
guys.
very
You probably
open.
have one at home.
They're quite high priced too.
I got a Yeti backpack made by a Yeti. You know what was in my backpack? Yeti fur.
Yeti fur.
Yep. I found me some Yeti hairs. They're real long and they're real fibrous. They're thick.
Oh.
Because they got to keep warm, man. You know,
You know that you can keep frozen Yeti in one of the Yeti coolers for 14 days without it melting?
Are you talking about Yeti slaughter right now? Because, you know, you can get in real big trouble,
No.
especially with the Yeti, for killing Yeti and eating
These are just parts they don't need. You know, if they get a spleen out, you don't need that. If they get,
them. Oh, I see what you're saying.
They
You're
need
talking
gall,
about the Yeti organ transplant department. and how the
gallbladders,
the
Yeti
old organs, you can
gallbladders,
eat them.
spleens, tonsils. You don't need them.
That's
All
true. They
these
don't
things.
need them anymore. So. And
Appendix.
people there, I didn't realize they were such delicacies.
All right, appendix. Some of them. I don't want to risk getting an
Yeti appendix.
Yeah. The appendix.
The appendix?
The appendix. Anyway, the vested rights got shut down too. And we're going, yes, yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Of course, Rise Gold said, this is unconstitutional. You cannot take away our right to make money on this site, mining, deep bedrock gold mining. So
Yeah.
we're going to sue you.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't pass our permit on the next meeting, we're suing. We're suing you. And they got a figure of like 400 million, something like that. Of course, the lawyers from CEA...
They said they were going to sue us for $400 million.
$400
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the lawyers from San Francisco said they've got no case. They're not being... their land is not being taken from them and the ability to make money from it.
Wow. Okay,
They could make
good.
money from that land, maybe even more money if they put housing up or some other thing, some other light
Or maybe
industrial.
a Yeti factory.
Yeti
Just
factory.
an idea.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of them living around here.
Yeah.
Employ the Yetis.
That's right.
Building a factory. Boom. I mean, you're right. There's so many things that they could actually do that would be profitable. Yeah. They could turn it into they could have a theme park. You know what I mean? A gold theme park where you go and they make you gold lollipops and you make them yourself. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be a realism, like an escape room.
Ah, yes.
They make a little
like a horror
a horror escape room where you go in and you're down and you're sucking in.
You can't get in.
You
can't breathe.
You can't breathe.
And they show you pictures of what it would be like in 5 years if this fucking thing went through. I like it. It's realistic.
So, yeah, a lot of money could be made on that. So anyway, vested rights down.
That went down the hill.
And we're going, okay.
And by the way, in the meantime, Ben Mossman separately, because he already had a company in British Columbia around before the vested rights thing, he was convicted of 13 counts of environmental waste charges. 13 environmental violations in relation to waste charges in the Northwest British Columbia mine in late 2014.
And there were actually more like 20-some charges, but somehow they slid through.
They
and
weaseled
out a few. But and I've seen some of the testimony where guys are saying, "Oh man, this he knew all about it," and we're looking at big pipes spewing toxic waste, and it took millions. I don't know, like 19, 20 million to clean that up.
Well, and it's not cleaned yet.
And it's not completely cleaned yet up.
You can't. That's the problem, is that you can't really clean up these sites.
So what the Rise Gold did was said, "Oh, we're going to take you out of the CEO position because it's looking bad for us that you just got all of these charges for toxic spills running a gold mine, and you want to open our gold mine here." And they're going, let's see if you vetted, say you were going to go get a root canal, and they go, "Hi, what's your track record with the root canals?" "Well, I've got 13 of my patients here that," and you show the patients and their cheeks are twice the size. "Oh, I didn't work on mine." And you go, "Well, maybe the 14th will be good. Go ahead, try it on me."
Trial and error. You know, gotta break some eggs to make an omelet.
So they took him out of the CEO position and said, "You're going to get a lowly position now. You're still going to be with the company." And they used that in the trial for all these.
For the vested rights.
They used that for his trial for these convictions.
Oh, they said he's been demoted.
And they used that saying to the judge, he has no job now. He can't afford to go to jail. He can't afford to pay big fines. And amazingly, they went, "Okay, we're only going to fine him $30,000 for this."
Come on, Canada.
Meanwhile, they've spent millions to try and clean up, which is not
Canada.
clean. So they went, good, we got by that one. And by the way, at the vested rights, they hired the most high-powered lawyer from D.C., Megan Wold. And my attorney friend said, "Oh my God, she is like massive. She's chumming with the big boys." On the Supreme Court in D.C. And this does not look good, because if they got that kind of money to pay her $1,000 an hour and her flight over and all that stuff, somebody else must be behind this. And they might have an ulterior motive, like looking at this as a landmark case where it could set a precedent. If we can push this vested rights through, that means a lot of clients that have gold mines over the country can reopen like that with vested rights. Fortunately, the vested went down, and she did not show up for the hearing with the Board of Supervisors. So
at the vested rights hearing.
She was at the vested rights hearing, but she didn't appear for the Board of Supervisors hearing.
No, she did not.
So we're thinking she either got wind or assessed the whole situation where this is unwinnable, and withdrew herself from the process.
Couldn't afford her.
Or they couldn't afford her, and so she wasn't there, which was great.
It was great.
So then we get to the main hearing with the Board of Supervisors.
The main event, ladies and gentlemen. So 5 years later, we're down to the main event, ladies and gentlemen.
The main event. I showed up at 7 because they were going to start giving out tickets, numbers to talk. And if you were the earlier you got, the more chance you would have an early number, and you could go in and say your thing.
I showed up shortly after you did.
And we all got our tickets. And then the whole thing started with the project description and the Rise Gold saying their
same dribble thing that they had been saying before again for 3 hours. I believe it was 9 to 12.
And they were
or something.
Yeah, then they kept trying to, they brought back up the thing. We would like one of the board members to recuse herself, and we said this before, and she, all this crap.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Who did they want to?
Heidi Hall, I think.
Oh, she was my favorite.
Yeah, they wanted her to recuse herself.
Actually, they're all my favorites now.
They made up, yeah. They're all favorites.
All of you win.
Yeah.
Supervisors, good job.
Yeah, it was awesome. They made up some, innocuous thing that she had compromised her integrity on the whole issue, and she shouldn't be in, which was all BS.
Because she said something, or
I don't really remember the details of that, so
yeah. It's okay.
Suffice to say, she said, "No, I'm not recusing myself. I'm not guilty of any wrongdoing in any of this process. I've been completely biased for the whole thing," and she proved herself to be so, and she was not required to recuse herself. So anyway, they tried to, they're a sly company that tries to worm their way in wherever they can.
They're wormy.
With their wormy style. So they try to do that every I suppose many lawyers try what they can to affect people's thinking. Mm-hmm. Just like I was on a jury once for a car accident. Yeah. The car that was hit by another vehicle in the rear. It was going less than 2 miles an hour. And the person hit in the car said, "I've had whiplash for 6 months. My life is a disaster." And to affect people's thinking, their lawyers came in and said, "Well, here's expert testimony, blah, 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 and here's this." And it was all such a farce to try and manipulate the system. And fortunately, for most of the jury, we decided she doesn't deserve anything. You could get, like one doctor said, you could get more whiplash walking off a large curb on the sidewalk, than being hit by a car at less than 2 miles an hour. Yeah. There was no damage to the car, nothing. So that was pretty interesting. At the final part of that, where they were reading the verdict, we had all agreed, our 12 jurors, whoever it was. We get out there, and the judge said, "Do you have a verdict for the..." "Yes, we do." And all of a sudden, one of our jurors says, "Wait, I think she should get something. She should get something for her pain and suffering for all this time." It was like, oh, wow. No. And the judge says, "Well, fortunately, this particular case doesn't require a unanimous vote. So you can keep your position."
Go justice.
You keep your position. But as I bring it back to this, please. These lawyers are all trying to manipulate the system. They're trying to figure out how are they going to work their way through here and get what they want out of the end result.
Yeah. Well, and what's amazing to me is that, this kind of shit happens all the time. And they lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was just amazing that after 100 of us, or give or take, got up there and said our 3 minutes, our supervisors listened.
Yeah.
They went.
It was like 120 at this particular meeting. Mm-hmm. Then the previous 2 meetings, the planning commission meetings, there were at least 500 people at each of those. Yeah. To protest. Not all those people spoke. Yeah. But yeah, there were. I think there were 120 people who spoke. Yeah. At this hearing, at least tickets were pulled.
Right. Yeah. And
they listened.
And they listened. Even Heidi Hall said, I remember on her when they were going through talking about what they think. She said, there are just too many potential impacts. And what if it went like a year and all of a sudden one of these disasters happened? Our community, our towns would never be the same again. If we had a disaster like happened in the Siscon mine in North San Juan, where they hit a major water fault and a dozen or more wells were immediately drained, and those that weren't filled up with toxic sludge. And there was one lady that talked, and she got so sick, man. And if one of those things happened here, we're done for.
Yeah.
And they wanted 80 years of a permit.
Yeah.
So the supervisors, they all listened, and they all had the same thing to say. Our community doesn't want this. And there are too many impacts, cumulative and otherwise. We can't in good conscience make you guys suffer like this.
Yeah.
For their profit.
Which was really beautiful and super gratifying. And
Yeah.
you know, I think it's also worth noting that the best part of this whole thing is that it brought this community so much more strongly together. And that's a real visceral feeling. You know, we really feel like we came together more. For sure, I know so many more people in this community as a result of this monstrosity, this nonsense. And also it really like strengthened the integrity of the consciousness of the community, if you will. I'm saying that. It strengthened the integrity of the consciousness of this community, all right, in terms of our moral compass and what we're going to put up with.
Yeah.
And it also birthed a song for me, The Wells Run Dry, which is amazing, which I'm going to share here at the end of this podcast. But, you know, the big thing is that it proved to us that if we stand up and fight together, we can win. And we can win in a way that benefits not only us, but also all of our neighbors and also generations to come.
Yeah.
You know, there's this whole thing in Native American culture, when you make your big decisions, make them for 8 generations down the line. And this is one of those decisions that positively affects humanity 8 generations down the line when you and I are, you know, well, whatever we are, we're floating around in midair, doing something, I don't know, we're doing whatever we're doing, all right? We'll probably still be joking somewhere. But, you know, 8 generations down the line, this is going to be a beautiful, have been a beautiful choice that's really going to positively affect people. So that's a huge, huge win for all of us that I'm incredibly happy to celebrate.
Yeah, it did. It brought everybody together and showed us that when we became one on this opposition, that cumulative effect really stood strong. There are people, you know, there's still people, like I know a few of my neighbors, and they're going, oh, that'll never happen. It'll never happen. You know, good on you, man. Great. I'm glad you guys are doing it. We really appreciate it. But there are a number of people that like, I don't want to get involved. I don't want this, but I'm going to let somebody else do it. Fortunately, there were enough of us that said, we're going to get involved. It's going to put us out. I'm going to spend a few nights a week doing meetings and going. And I must have written, I still have my backlog of commentaries and letters to the board and stuff. I've got like pages and pages and pages of, and I wrote a bunch of op-eds to the local paper, the union paper, and those were published. And I would get people on the street in my neighborhood say, "Oh, we read your thing. I'm so glad you're doing that for us." But you know, there are some people that just don't want to stand up. It's not their thing to get involved, or they want to be bothered with it. And that's okay. We did it. We did it for them.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, that points to something else, which, you know, look, God bless everyone. You know, the more that we lay down and just act like, either trust that it can't happen because it seems so crazy that it could happen, or are too afraid to get involved, you know, the more that we just allow evil to win. And I think, you know, that's a big point that I would make, is that, you know, when you encounter evil, if you don't do anything to stop it, it will win every time. Yeah. And I realize I'm using a big word here. I don't mean to sound like George W. Bush, the evildoers, you know. I'm not trying to do that. But I do believe evil exists, and I believe that this for sure is an evil thing, because it would cost the people of this county so much, and it, you know, the greed involved and the amount of money that could be made far outweighed the human cost of what this devastation would have caused. And so, you know, here's an example of us standing up and saying, no, you can't do that. We're going to put a stop to this, and we did. And moreover, it just brought us together and made us a more cohesive and a more powerful community as a whole.
One of their points that they were trying to drive home is that we're bringing jobs to the neighborhood. And one of the commenters, another intelligent guy, came up and said, I've looked at all the jobs. There are 40-some thousand jobs in this county. What they are projecting is that they will provide less than 1/6 of 1% of jobs if they actually filled those jobs with people that are local. So, and they wouldn't, because there are no more miners here. Because there's no mines open. There aren't a backlog of guys going, I know mining, I'm an engineer, and I'm just sitting here waiting for the next mine. They would have to go to Canada to get these people. Trucking stuff, they'd have to go out of town to get these people. So they were trying to pawn off that they're bringing jobs to this county.
Yeah.
And they just weren't there.
It was just a bunch of hooey.
And
bunch of hooey is what it was, all right? H-O-O-E-Y. That's how you spell hooey, in case anybody's checking.
Hushki.
Hooey.
It could be Hushki, too.
Hushki, a little Hushki. A little bit of Hushki. They are doing some Hushki for us, you know?
No, I can't drink any Hushki anymore.
You are going to drink some Hushki from the rice gold people from Canada, you know? It's very good for you.
I don't want no Hushki. So, yeah, we said that we won the thing.
We won the thing.
They got to the thing and no, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want.
Yep.
Yes, no.
So this is our big victory lap, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I really liked one of the commenters. It might have been Ralph. He was saying his thing and said this is this and that and then, and he got to a point and he looked over at the Rise Gold people and said, "It's over," and that was super powerful because it was. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
So yeah. Anyway, that's
the whole deal.
That's the gist of it. We may have missed a few details here and there, but generally speaking, it was a really bad thing that was planned, and we stopped it. Yeah. We hope they don't have any more funding to go after this next bit of suing the county and all that. And we hope that it'll get thrown out.
Yep.
Then we hope that a law will get passed that says no more mining here. As one of my friends that lives close said, I've spent something like 15 of the last 20 years of my living at this house fighting different mine companies trying to reopen that thing. So we really hope there's something that happens where once and for all they just there's no mining allowed. You can't reopen a gold mine here. Period.
Period and a story. Done deal.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's that.
So great. That's beautiful. So we're gonna I'm gonna leave you guys with the Wells Run Dry music video, which we shot here at Empire Mine State Park and in Nevada City, and features a group of people who volunteered to come out and perform in the video for me, with me, and it feels super good because I feel like the song came true.
Feel free to sing along too.
Feel free to sing along, pass it along, and enjoy. Yeah. All right, everybody. If you want to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Lunacy Podcast. Also, check out lunacycommunity.com. Sign up for a profile there. That's going to be getting bigger as time goes on. All right. Much love, you guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Later.
Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. You might say your mining claim is what everybody needs. Beneath your lying promises is a heart of your greed. slip it into the ground beneath our feet. Rape our land of treasures that our people sorely need. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Won't you please do us the decency of not pretending like you care, while you fill our space with toxic waste and contaminate our air. Lose out on memory, poison in their minds. We will fight for every drop till you abandon all your claims. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. The wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. The wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people awake. Wells run dry and the people are thirsty. Wells run dry and the people awake.
Anything funny we want to end with? Do you want to say anything funny at the end part?
And are these the
Lunatic.
Are these the outtakes?
These are going to be the outtakes.
I don't do any funny stuff.
I mean, I don't know. You don't really do much funny stuff, really, most of the time.
I'm funny.
Yep. Can you make some weird noises real quick?
Do you want the Geiger counter?
Yep. So let's hear your Geiger counter, man. What happens if they open his mind to me? That's right. I'm radioactive.
You are radioactive.
Radioactive.
I would get that checked out.
You think I need to?
I know a guy. He could check you out.
Is that right? Does he work for Rice Gold?
He doesn't work for anybody.
He used to work for Rice Gold.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yep.
Flossman.
Flossman?
His name is Flossman.
Yep.
He'll first check you out with floss. He's got the special floss, and he'll put that over.
He puts that over.
He puts it in different places.
Different places on your body.
That's right.
In your nethers.
And then he wraps it around things,
Yep,
tightens it.
That sounds scary.
Well, he can tell.
It.
He can tell it's a very cosmic thing, you know.
Yep. There's a cosmic thing to it. I like that.
Yeah,
anytime anybody's looking at the astral to figure out what's wrong with me, I'm into it.
He uses AI, you know.
Artificial intelligence. I know what that stands for.
I thought it was artificial inoculation.
Artificial immunization.
Yes, artificial. That's the new thing.
That's the
where
thing that everybody
you don't have to get a shot
COVID.
or anything. You don't take a pill or get a shot. It's artificial. They go.
It's like a fake shot.
That's right.
Yep.
They wave a feather
in your face.
Yeah.
And then
this is your immunization thing. What would you like?
Yep.
Oh, we need a different feather. That's called a crow feather.
Yep.
That gives you diphtheria.
That's good.
And what else do you need to get immunized
I
from?
need to get mumps.
Mumps? Okay, wait a minute. That's
COVID. I need a COVID vaccination every several months, and then some boosters.
Oh, the COVID.
To be immune to the thing.
The boosters are with the hummingbird
that's
feathers.
good.
The boosters, hummingbird feathers. Sometimes they'll put it up your nose.
Get me
and
boosted.
Twizzle
stick right up my nose.
Twizzle it.
Twizzling up my nose and nosers. All right. Much love, Lunacy community.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Some special.